Hi everybody, I'm just doing a long loop to the shops. But there's a little subject I want to talk about because I've not seen too much said about it, but the implications of this are actually quite serious for probably quite a lot of people by this point. It's to do with CBTs and not being able to retake them. So a very quick overview if you don't know what the CBT is. In the UK, at the age of 16, you can do a one-day training course and it allows you to ride up to a 50cc moped, scooter, small motorcycle up to 50cc for 2 years before you have to retake it. If you were 17, you can ride up to a 125, but otherwise the rules are practically the same. So the CBT, as I say, lasts for 2 years, and then what you normally do is a couple of months before it runs out, or a month before it runs out, you go and retake the test, and you're okay for another 2 years. Not a problem. Lots of people do it time and time again. I did it 4 times. Now, obviously with COVID, what happened was we went into the first lockdown, and at that point they said no training or anything like that. I think that's where it happened. Then they relaxed the rules and said no, it was okay to go and do your training, particularly if you were like a key worker. Now we're back in a position where most people can't go and do any training of any kind, that be it motorcycle, CBT or anything like that. The minimum of 18, because if they took it at 16 it runs out at 18. There is a group of 18 to whatevers, because you can get the CBT at any age. It's only a minimum age requirement, whose CBT has run out in the past few months or is about to run out, and they aren't able to go and do the CBT test, which means that they won't be able to ride their bike. Now legally, from the legal standpoint, you should not ride your bike once your CBT runs out. However, I totally understand why some people are going to be like, well, I don't have a choice. I need to be able to ride, and it's not my fault I couldn't get to the government's thing, to get the test done. That's their problem. I'm going to keep riding. And I know your thoughts behind that. The only thing I'm going to say is, as a warning, is that the law won't see it that way. Not unless they bring some legislation in to cover it, someone takes it through court, wins the case, and then we get a legal precedence which stands for everyone else. But obviously the courts are not moving fast right now, and that would be something that would take a while. So the long and the short of it is, without question, if your CBT runs out, you definitely should not be riding. Some people maybe have accepted it on the chin and just been like, well, this is crap. And are not riding and are using other means, and some people don't have a choice and there's nothing they can do. It's not like they can call and ask for this or that or the other. They're just going to keep riding, I think, in most cases. And obviously the problem you have there is that your insurance will be invalid. I understand that the government, didn't sort it out so you would be covered, but that doesn't change the law that was already in place. For example, say your insurance is on direct debit and there's a system failure and the money doesn't go out or something like that. I think the responsibility is on you to make sure you're insured, whether it's their deal or not, whether they should have called you and told you or not. It's something you should personally check to make sure that is being paid, or at least be checking on their app or website that your insurance is active, should we say. It's going to be the same sort of situation. Now, I've shown some strong opinions in the past about people riding completely illegally, and I still stand by what I said back then, because the fact of the matter is they then had a choice. Nowadays, at the moment, I get why people don't feel like they have a choice, because they actually don't. It's not like you were like, well, I don't want to just, I'm not going to do the license, I'm just going to ride anyway. You had a license, it ran out, and the government made it not possible for you to be able to go and retake your test. I get that, but it doesn't change the law, as much as it's unfair. I did ask on Twitter earlier on if anyone knew anything about this, whether anything being said, and apparently there may be a couple of people or organisations trying to look into this, but not a lot came up when I googled it, and not many people seem to be asking the question when I googled it. There's not things all addressing this, so this seems like something that's going on and maybe people aren't talking about because, well, they're having to ride illegally. If any of you are going through this yourselves right now, I really do feel for you, because it's just dumb. It should have been seen coming. It's a big issue. It's people riding without any insurance, which puts themselves and others at risk. But they have to be able, some of these people have to be able to get to work. So it's a really frustrating situation. And the silly thing about it is they could have done something like extend the CBTs for those people like they did for MOTs on vehicles during the first wave lockdown. You know, just say that anyone's CBT that was going to run out in 2020 or 2021, extend it by a year, or extend it by 2 years. The whole retake of the CBT is... I don't disagree with it, because otherwise you just have a really simple licence where you don't actually really need to know hardly anything and you'll be on the road with a 125 all the time. But really, that's what the CBT allows, because you really don't have to be a very good rider and you don't really have to know much about the road to pass one, depending on where you go to do your CBT. So although yes, I do think there's some inherent risks with saying, yeah, just extend the CBT, let these people go out and ride for another 2 years rather than retaking their test, it seems like the simplest solution. And as much as it is risky, I do think that that's a very mitigated risk, because it's not everyone that's going to be going out and riding, or at least I hope that's the case. You know, even though I can argue it's my work, I'm just not riding most of the time. It's not worth riding to my local shop, really. I needed to make a video today, and I thought, well, I'll just take a long loop to the shop. I also need to try and get a bit of battery juice into the DRZ, because the cold weather and not riding much is affecting that. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts on this one are. If you have any more information that I've not heard about, or something that's developed since I recorded this, do remember that because I'm a patron, I'm recording this on Sunday, okay? So you probably won't see this on YouTube until Wednesday or something like that, and a lot happens at the moment. I've been caught on this a couple of times where I've made a video and then things have changed since it was recorded, because things are moving fast right now, and at the same time very, very slow. To extend this conversation slightly, there obviously are also people who are waiting to do their full motorcycle licenses or do their A2 sits or stuff like that right now, who are just so frustrated. I mean, I think there's someone in my Discord who has been waiting pretty much since the beginning of the COVID whole lot, I think, or at least a few months. I know a lot of people will say, come on, common sense, it's not very high risk to be near each other when doing a test, because, you know, you're in motorcycle helmets and you don't have to get that near each other, and you don't technically need to go inside a building and all that. I get it, I totally get it, but equally, not a lot of the other rules necessarily make sense, because they're trying to make one rule to cover everything, and for one case it makes sense and for another case it doesn't, but you don't consider the fact that those two rules are actually the same rule, as it were, if you know what I'm trying to say. So logic doesn't always follow through, and you can sit there and say, well, obviously this is so much lower risk than this which is allowed, and you're like, yeah, but that's just the way the legislation is. And when the word of the law is that way, and at the end of the day it's your neck on the line, like with the CBTs, you have to really think about this and decide if you want to pick that battle. So I'm basically saying here, if people continue riding on a CBT when it runs out, I don't think you should, but I can kind of understand why they're doing it, especially if they're like, look, I can't get food or anything, I need my bike. I can understand, because something should have been put in place, but this is a warning to say, most likely, if you have an accident or something, and this all comes to a head, you're not going to be able to argue your way out by saying that the government didn't give me the opportunity. I just don't think it's going to work. Hopefully, this will change. Anyway, I am now at Tesco's to get my foods, and then I'm going to go back home. I'm not even going to complain about it, really, because it's freezing. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed this video, well, I don't know about enjoyed, but found it useful, please do leave a like so more people can see it and we can get more of a discussion. Subscribe if you are new here, because I make all sorts of videos to try and help new riders. I have a playlist on it, actually. But I also try and stand up for new riders, because new riders are important for motorcycles as an industry, and for people like me whose job works in that industry. We need more new young blood, and at the moment it's clearly not happening. And I don't want people's careers on motorcycles ending because they've been riding without a CBT, etc. If you really want to help this channel, consider joining Patreon, get videos early, be on the Discord where you can get to chat to me. I've also recently been doing some streams and stuff. And other ways to support the channel are the merch in the description. I've got some new stuff that's there recently. Check it all out, I would appreciate it. Anyway, until the next one, stay safe, bye bye.